Hello and welcome to the Learning Love Podcast, brought to you by the Learning Love Foundation, helping people transform how they love, live, and lead. I'm your host, Dr. Mark A. Hicks, and I want to thank you for joining us today as we spend some time learning love. Love is the answer. Now all we have to do is explore all the questions. There's a lot of questions around love. There's a lot of things that we don't understand about life and relationship. We have to explore them, but we know when we learn the life of love, that's the answer. When we learn how to practice it, live it out in our relationships, we find the answers we're looking for in life. So today, I want to talk about the goals of love. What are we actually trying to get to? This one confuses a lot of people. We talk about love in the abstract, but we don't always define exactly what we are trying to accomplish. What are we trying to get to? What do we believe can happen if we live a life of love, if we bring the practice of love into our life, into our relationships? Here's the problem. Some people have a completely misguided idea of what can happen from a life of love, of what love can do in the world. That we start to believe things like love is the light that drives out all darkness, that love eradicates fear and anger and bitterness and outrage. Well, love does none of those things. We live in a world where there are things to be afraid of. There will still be fear. We can live a life of love and still have things that legitimately bring fear into our life. There are things to be angry about. There are things that cause us to have that legitimate emotion and the people around us. And sometimes it may not be legitimate, but it's still going to be there. We're going to have anger and fear. We're going to have the darkness of life. That is a reality in the world. That's not trying to be pessimistic. That's just a practical reality of life. There's stuff, okay? There's bad elements. There's things that happen. Mistakes get made. Stuff goes wrong. There's natural disasters and there's human-made disasters. And there is going to be the darkness. There's going to be those dark days. There's going to be the struggles and the fear and the pain of life. We're not going to ever come to a place where all that is eradicated. Some people get the idea that if I can just love enough, if I can just fill my heart, my life, my soul with enough love, that all that can be eradicated in my life. All that can be pushed away. I won't have fear. I won't have to deal with anger. I'll drive out the darkness, and I'll have such love that will just spill over to everyone else in my life, and I will show them the way to light. I will show them the way to eradicate all that bad stuff. And when that doesn't happen, and it won't, that is impossible, then we get discouraged. We start to wonder, is love real? Why am I doing all this? Why am I living such a life of love? Why am I struggling to keep my life in a place of love and live out these practical elements of love when there's still fear, there's still anger, there's still struggle, there's still pain, there's still darkness? Sometimes we give up because we go through the pain of life and we think, love didn't help me. Love didn't do any good for me. And I've talked to people that said, I don't think it's even real. I talked to a lady one time that said, I don't believe love even exists. She had this kind of idea that love was a little bit like Santa Claus. It's something fun that we talk about with children to make the world seem just more jolly, but it's not really real. And she had that idea about love. It's something nice to pass around. It's a fantasy that naive people can have, but it isn't really real. And that came from the pain in her life that she just gave up on the whole concept. We may not go to that extreme, but we do get discouraged at times because we have such a misguided idea of what love can accomplish. Love will not drive out all darkness. Love will not eradicate fear and anger and struggle and pain. That's still going to be there. What love does is balance all of that. When we give up on love and we start to think we have to come back against anger with anger, when we start to think that the way we have to address pain is to pick ourselves up by our bootstraps and we have to just tough it out in life, when we give up and we just think that love doesn't have any real power in life, what we have done is give in to all the stuff, all the darkness, when love is never meant to eradicate that, it's meant to balance it. Our goal in life, in living a life of love, is not to eradicate the stuff that cannot be eradicated. is not to drive out all darkness, which is impossible, not to do away with fear and anger and pain, which can't happen. It is to give love, joy, compassion equal time. To give love equal time. To give compassion and joy and connection equal time in life. How would life be different? Even if we didn't eradicate all the bad stuff of life, even if we could not drive out the darkness, what if our goal was to give love equal time? To love enough to balance the pain and the struggle and the anger and the fear, to give light enough chance that it can balance the darkness. That yes, it's still there, but we give light equal time. We give the good of life equal time. That would revolutionize our life, our family. That would revolutionize all of life. That would completely change our families, our communities, our workplaces, if we gave love equal time. If we gave the extensions of love, joy, compassion, connection, all these things equal time, we will not eradicate the pain of life, but we transform life in the process. There's a few things that we can do if we adopt this process of practicing the components of love, the aspects of love in our life, living that out in practical ways. There are some things that happen when we start to align ourselves with love, not to eradicate all the bad things in life that are still going to be there, but to give love equal time, to bring light into the darkness, even if the darkness still remains. There's some things that can happen. Our goal is for our light to shine without blinding other people, without blinding those around us. It is to have love shine without burning others. See, one of the things that we try to do sometimes when we adopt this concept of love is that we are going to love so much that we want to destroy anything bad in other people. We want to just burn that out of them with the light that's within us. It's not how it works. It's not our goal to burn anything out of anybody else. It's not our goal to harm other people with how much we love because they're in a bad place. All that stuff is very misguided. Our light needs to shine without blinding others that may not quite be there yet, that may not quite understand why we can love in the midst of that darkness. It's not to catch others on fire with our light. It is simply to give love equal time, to give connection equal time to the things that would destroy us in the world around us. It's to bring a compassion without being naive. See, sometimes we start to think, well, if I can just love enough, then all the bad stuff will end. That's just naive. Okay, it doesn't work that way. And sometimes if we start to love, we get taken advantage of. That people that are unscrupulous can use our good nature against us and we get hurt. That's never the goal of love. That's not the practical reality of love. When we love, we do not bring naivete into it. We do not have to adopt a naive idea in order to love. We can still have compassion and keep our eyes open. We can still have love and still keep our eyes open in the sense that we're giving compassion equal time to the realities that we see very clearly of the unscrupulous people, the people that would abuse, the people that would harm. We see that. We're not blind to that, and yet we give compassion equal time in our own spirit and in the life around us. When we love, we can stand our ground, but we do it with kindness. We don't allow ourselves to become so rigid in our ideas of we're right and they're wrong that our love becomes a thing of defensiveness, that we have to have it this way because this is love. No, it's not. It's that we balance the people that are wrong. We balance the things that are harmful without becoming violent against them, without becoming rigid in our ways, that we can still be kind while we stand up for what's right. Love doesn't mean that we just become a doormat and that we allow people to walk on us. We stand for what is right without becoming so rigid that we become violent, even emotionally violent, against those who are wrong. And we allow in love for our pain to be transforming, not transmitted. This is a quote from Richard Rowe. Let me read this. If we do not transform our pain, we will most assuredly transmit it to others and ourselves. If we don't allow pain of life to transform us, we will transmit it. We're going to allow pain of life to make us wise in the ways of life. We are going to grow in our wisdom and strength, or we are going to transmit that pain with anger towards others, with bitterness, with rage, with outrage, with all the things that we see. that anger is going to come out towards others and maybe towards ourselves. The ways of love aren't to change the world. The ways of love are to give love equal time, and in doing that, we change the world, ironically. There is this paradox in the way we work that we're not trying to change the world, not trying to change other people. We simply want to give love equal time, give connection and compassion equal time in a world of darkness, and in the process, we change the world. And so when we start reaching this level of understanding of love, we can feel fear without letting it consume us. We're not ruled by fear. When we start practicing this level of love, we can feel fear without letting it consume us. It doesn't rule over us. It doesn't make decisions for us. We can feel it. We can be in situations that are legitimately fearful, but we don't let that fear make our decisions. We still make decisions based on love and compassion and kindness and all the things that make the world better and all the things that make us better. We aren't ruled by fear, even though we may feel it. That we can experience anger without losing empathy, without losing compassion. Yes, there are some things to be mad at, and we need to stand up for what is right. Love does not mean that we just become a doormat and let anybody do whatever they want. That's not how it works. Love stands for what is right. Compassion still has a place for anger, for a place that this is simply not right, and we feel that anger. Yet, we don't lose empathy. We realize that person is not evil, they are misguided, and we have compassion for them, even if we may be angry against them. It is that paradox when we start to understand this life of love, this understanding of love, this practice of love, that we're not trying to eradicate all of these things. We still feel them. We still see the darkness. We still feel the fear. We still feel anger at times. And yet we hold equal time compassion and empathy. And we still see the light of life, even in that darkness. When we practice that kind of love, giving love equal time, giving compassion equal time, giving empathy equal time for all the other things that will happen in life, it's transforming. It's revolutionary for us, our families, our communities, our workplaces, even our world. If I could be so bold to dream for the day where in the world, in our society, we would give love equal time. When we practice that, it changes the world, even though we're not even trying to change the world. Now, this is actually a practice. I've used that word several times. It is a practice. And here's the reason why. Our brains are wired up to see the negative. You may have heard me talk about this in past shows. Our brains are wired up to see the negative because it protects us. Our brain is there to keep us alive. Our brain is there to protect us, to make sure we don't get hurt, both physically and emotionally. And so instinctively, our brains will pick out the negative. It will watch for the things that are going to make us angry, things to be afraid of, things that we need to be on guard against. Our brains will instinctively pick those things out so that we can guard against it and not get hurt. Our brains, when it sees something joyful, happy, funny, it may see it, may not. Because it doesn't matter. It's not going to hurt us. It's not going to take our life. It's not going to do any harm to us. And so it can just go right by and no harm done. Our brains are primarily there. Our core, our instinctual brain is there just to keep us alive and keep us basically healthy. That's what it's there for. And so it's not going to necessarily pick out the happy things, the joyful things, the things of compassion and empathy. That's not the instinct. That is a higher level of thought. So we have to work at it. We have to pick out the things and pay attention to, because our brains go through this process called neuroplasticity, that basically the functions of the brain have to develop new pathways of thought. There has to be new connections of thought to piece all this together, to see the joyful things in life, the compassion, the empathy that we can have for other people. That is higher levels of thought, and it takes a little while to get there. It takes a little work for our brains to learn to function that way. And so, as I'm talking about all this stuff about love and compassion, some people will roll their eyes. Some people will think that just sounds silly. That's just some ideological mumbo jumbo that is nice to think about, but it's not real life. It doesn't feel like real life because our brains instinctively say real life is the stuff that can harm you, the stuff that can hurt you, the things that can kill you or damage you emotionally. That's real life, according to the instinct of our base brain. That's our human existence, is making sure we stay alive and don't get hurt. physically and emotionally. So that's what feels the most real. And so when I talk about all this thing of love, sometimes when our brains aren't accustomed to thinking that way, we can just dismiss it, silly stuff, roll the eyes, just some sort of hippie thing, just some sort of silly idealism that doesn't really work. It actually does really work. There is a place in the world for it, but our brains have to adapt to it. We have to get to a place where we work at the practice of love, not with a misconception that we're going to somehow ride into victory on the white horse of love and destroy all the bad things and vanquish the enemy and drive out the darkness. That's not going to work. But to give love equal time and to teach our brains how to do that. That yes, we're going to see fear. Yes, we're going to feel the fear of life. We're going to feel anger. We're going to experience pain. But to give love and compassion and understanding and connection equal time, letting our brains learn to do that, and that's a process, and letting the pain of life transform us in wisdom and in compassion, understanding when we hurt, we can have more compassion for those that hurt, understanding that we can have more empathy for those that have been through similar things. And so we begin to have a life of love, even in the midst of the pain of life, not driving it out, not eradicating it, but having a life of love that gives equal time. And in doing that, we change our life, we change our families, our workplaces, our communities, and even our world. The goal of love is not to eradicate all the bad stuff. The goal of love is to find a place where it has equal time, where the compassion is there in the midst of the hurt, that wisdom is there because of the hurt, that we don't allow our hurt to transmit to other people in forms of anger and bitterness and rage, but we allow it to transform us in wisdom and compassion and empathy. When we live that kind of love and we train our brains to do it, we change our life, we change our families, we change the world. And isn't that what we all want? And that's my thoughts this week as we are working to make love real in our life and find the answers, which is love. I hope you'll go to my website, markahicks.com. You'll find a lot of good things there, including easy links to buy my book, Learning Love, Building a Life That Matters, and Healthy Relationships That Last. I also want to thank everyone involved with the Learning Love Foundation that brings us this show each week. You can find out more at learninglovefoundation.com. As always, I want to thank my producer, Abby Graves of Abby Graves Productions, and thank you for listening. Until next week, love well, everyone.